Hey everyone, welcome to another lesson. And in this video, we'll go a little deeper into expressions and how we can highlight the intention and the feelings of our characters and our sculpture. And for me personally, after the gesture itself, like the gesture of the whole pose, uh, we can have three uh, features that help us to to bring our work to life. And those features are the hands, the feet, and the face. Okay, and we can have those features basically into three different states. I would say in a neutral state, where basically you don't want to bring too much attention to it. You want the audience to don't take too long looking at that particular part of your sculpture. You can have them in a subtle expression, uh, where you want to bring that calm, that light movement. You want to express less weight and maybe a kind touch, or a very soft look to it. So you have less wrinkles, you have less muscles showing up, you see more rounded forms, and a softer transition between the forms and between the characters or the objects of your scene. Or you can have them in an intense pose, and in this you see a heavier weight, a more dramatic action to that particular part of your work. You see more pressure, you see tendons and veins and more muscles popping out, and of course heavier interaction between the body parts, the objects, and even between the characters if you have more than one character into the piece. And of course you don't have to have all the three features in the same state, but you can have like the face, the hands, and the feet in an intense look if you want to convey if you want to have like a fighting scene or something that is really dramatic. You might want to just have keep the same language between the three features, but of course you can mix them and have different parts telling you different stories basically. So let's just jump into some examples here, just so we can see this happening in some classical sculptures. So here you can see a very subtle gesture to the pose and a neutral face with no expression basically, and that combined with soft hands and basically neutral feet as well. So you see rounded shapes, you don't see a lot of wrinkles, you don't see a lot of muscles, and that brings you this calm moment where the subject is just sleeping, laid down to a rock or whatever. So it bring you that calm state, very soft forms, right? If you compare here, everything is very intense. You have intense hands, very strong anatomy looking body here, and the gesture very twisted, all the muscles just screaming at you, and that combined with a more subtle face, right? You see here very strong and intense hands, very heavy interactions between the hand itself, the articulations, and the background objects. And here you have a mix. It's a very complex uh, mix of feelings. Actually, you see this guy in a neutral face expression, and a very soft and subtle body action. Actually, kind of for him is almost like not just another day. You know, he's not really having putting too much effort into this action. You don't see the muscles really popping out. You don't see a lot of tendons or veins or wrinkles. It's just like another day for him. But at the same time, you have a very strong grip to the weapon and a very strong grip to the head of the second character. And if you compare this character to this one, to the beast here, it's just a complete contrast, right? You have this face just screaming in despair, and you have all the muscle groups and wrinkles just popping out a lot. You have veins, you have wrinkles, and you have a very intense line of action happening. Like, this guy is completely desperate, and this guy is super calm. So you can have that complexity to your work based on those three states. And a few more examples here. You can see like a very subtle foot in this side and a more neutral foot here. You see the contrast between them. And if you compare with this one, super intense and strong looking feet, you see the tendons and the veins and the interaction between them, really heavy. And you can also compare with this one, super neutral foot and a more subtle hand happening there. And right here you see a intense but almost neutral look to the face, and then subtle hands and subtle pose to the arms. And then as you go down, you see the foot, the feet here just being very intense and very active. It's almost like he's trying to keep it down here, and then as you go down, you see he's just freaking out and just really worried about something. So you have that complexity of feelings added if you mix those states. Here you have a different example of a neutral pose, a neutral face. He has very subtle hands, and you see that this kind of brings the detail and the attention to the torso area, where you have all the distress on the cloth here and a lot of detail on the chest armor. So it brings you a different kind of point of interest. And if you compare here, you have a very expressive face, very dramatic, with the grip of the hands, very dramatic as well. Here you have a very subtle pose, but at the same time, a very dramatic face. You can see how desperate the guy is, compared with this guy here, a more of a intense and deep look, but almost neutral expression, brings you that warrior that has been through a lot feeling, you know. So you can see how combining those states and in the features, you can really highlight or neutralize the expression on your work. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about this before we jump into the sculpture videos again. So let's just try to add all this to our keep in mind list while we are working, and I'll see you guys on the next videos.